Alright, in this section we're going to talk about probability, which is pretty much just counting principles, but you're doing it like two different ways. You're going to divide. So it's like counting principles with some division is one way you could think about it. Alright, so just some vocab. So let's say I flip a coin. Let's say I flip a coin once. Alright, the outcome is how that could play out. So the result of events. So if I flip a coin, two outcomes are possible: heads or tails. And if I roll a die, there's 6 outcomes. I could roll a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6. If I choose one playing card, there's 52 different outcomes. Alright, the sample space is all the possible outcomes you could get. So if you flip a coin once, it's represented over there as HT, heads or tails. Alright, and an event is a sample space, is a subset of the sample space. So let's say you flip a coin 3 times. An event could be getting tails at least once in all 3 flips. So that event could have outcomes like tails, heads, heads, tails, tails, heads, tails, 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 heads, tails, heads. Alright, those are all outcomes in that event of flipping tails at least once. Alright, so let's practice finding sample spaces first. So if one coin is tossed, that was in the previous video, or previous slide, just H, heads and tails. Okay, we use those brackets to represent the sample space. Alright, if you flip a coin twice, now there's 4 different outcomes. Could be heads, heads, heads then tails, tails then heads, or tails, tails. Alright, so 4 different outcomes there. 2 ways to flip the first coin, 2 ways to flip the second coin. So 2 times 2 is 4. So if we flip a coin 3 times, there's going to be 8 different outcomes. You can get heads each time. You go heads, heads, tails, heads, tails, heads, tails, heads, heads. So that's the 3 different ways you can get 1 tail and 2 heads. You can also go heads, tails, 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 heads, tails, or tails, tails, heads, or all 3 tails. Alright, so that would be the sample space for flipping a coin 3 times. 8 different outcomes.